session. Okay, so welcome back everyone, and good to see you all again on Monday. So today we will be covering, or we'll be starting with an introduction to UiPath Studio Web and how does it different from the desktop, and what is the solution type, and how do we do the deployments for the projects which are built on Studio Web. So these are the concepts which we are going to cover for today. So there are a lot of features available in the Studio Web. Like maybe the previously it was something that like a base version we might have visited, and majority of the times we generally work on the Studio desktop. So that might be the reason. Like we need to have some. Uh, I thought of like having some session on the Studio Web as an introductory, because majority of us still working on the Studio desktop, because Studio desktop has a lot of features compared to the Studio Web. But the problem is,
So I'm entering some area and I'm entering something like a value error. Already I said in the last class only value error. So which line it is coming? Line number 5. So I need to handle that exception.
Change the setting to just
yeah,
make sure
I'll
that
I'll
everybody will
I'll
unmute.
I'll do that.
Okay.
So in case if someone wanna ask any questions or something, please put down in the chat, so that like I'll be responding back, or like I'll be taking those questions at the end. Okay, so I'm just trying to reiterate. So majority of us like are still working on the Studio desktop, because the Studio desktop has a lot of rich features compared to the Studio web. And also the Studio desktop is like something, when we come across any complex use cases in terms of RPA implementations, Studio desktop is much far more better than what we have in the Studio web. And when it comes to the UI automation, for the internal applications or anything, right? Like the Studio desktop works pretty much well, whereas the Studio web is not compatible with the desktop automation, or like the folder operations or something, whatever works on our local machines. Those are not compatible. So there are multiple reasons why we are more comfortable with the Studio desktop. But now, unfortunately, we need to work on the Studio web in case if we wanna cope up with the agentic capabilities. Because the building of the agents, or the building of the agentic processes, is on the Studio web. So that's the only option we have. So now we don't have any other way. So we need to learn the UiPath Studio web. But before we go for the Studio web, I want to create one desktop project. Okay. So it will not take much time. I'll be opening the Orchestrator, and I'll be having an UiPath Studio desktop open. Sample project Studio desktop. Create. So I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to build anything. I just created a project, and we will use this project going further down the line in today's session, right? So I'm just minimizing this project, which I doesn't want to do anything as of now. And let us come over the Studio Web tool. And when we look at the Studio Web interface, there are three items which we could able to see very clearly on the top, which is the cloud workspace, local workspace, and the templates, right? And install locally, which is nothing but like to download your Studio desktop, so that like we can install it on our machine. And also we have option for creating of any new project here. And also we have the recent projects, whatever we have created, all the project list, we can see it here. And if something is not required, like we can just delete it as well. Like we have multiple options or the context menu available for each of the solution projects which we have created here. So I'm just trying to delete few, which I feel that it is not required. That's okay. Yeah. So on the top, we have three options: the cloud workspace, local workspace, and the templates. So we'll come to the cloud workspace and local workspace again. And when we click on the templates, we will be having some ready-made pre-built templates available for us, similar to how we have in Studio Desktop, that like RE framework, which is a pre-built template, right? In the similar way, we have some pre-built templates already created and shared by the UiPath itself, or something which is onboarded onto the UiPath marketplace. So those will be available here. And we can have even the project type also can be filtered. Like we have for agentic process, agents, API workflows, RPA workflows, or the apps. So some reusable processes like or some templates. So this is not a perfect template, I'll say. This is something that like a reusable process which is built where we can directly start using it and configure the values. Like in case if you see the first one, upload email attachments from Gmail to the Google Drive, which is a task. So which we already have a pre-built. We just need to start using it, and then we just need to make the configurations. So that's how these templates works. And then after that, like we have cloud workspace and the local workspace. So what actually these two, and what actually the difference between these two? So the name itself suggests, when we say the cloud workspace, which means like it will be lying only in the cloud, right? Like in the UiPath cloud itself, like whatever the work which we are doing under this cloud workspace will be lying or getting stored in the UiPath cloud. And when it comes to the local workspace, which means we are creating our projects or our solutions inside of our system, and that is getting connected to your studio web. So the source code or the code what we have here will be stored under your system when it comes to the local workspace. So that's the difference between these two. The names itself will suggest. So we will be having that like where it actually getting stored as well, right? So for example, I'm just deleting this remove. I cannot delete it. I need to delete it from local. So there is an option that like open the solution. We can open it from here, whatever the solution we will be having, and we can download as well. So here is the cloud workspace, which we have. And when I try to create a new project, right? So we will be having different types of projects as well. So which we will look. And when I want to create some project, for now, I'm just creating an RPA workflow in the cloud workspace, right? Because we are familiar with the RPA workflows. So I'll open the studio one more instance where I want to create some project in the local, right? So I can go to the local workspace. I need to click on the local workspace. And from here, I need to create a new project. So I'll select RPA workflow. And I'll say that test RPA workflow and select the folder. Yes, hello. So now both two projects got created for me. Two RPA projects have got created. One is on the cloud and the other is on the local. So I'll say test RPA solution local. And here I'll say test RPA solution cloud. So if you see here, everything looks to be very same, right? Like in terms of the project structure and everything. But the only difference what you could able to see is here saved recently, it looks like local folder, and here it is cloud. So this icon actually differentiate where your project was like living. And also, in case if you are coming to the studio web homepage, also then you need to navigate between or switch between the cloud workspace and the local workspace. So here, whatever the changes we are doing, everything will be saved to the local folder, and your entire projects lies in your local folder. So that's the difference. Like one is, so what is another difference? See, the intention of the cloud is to accessible from anywhere based on your login, and there is no system dependency. In case if you are working with this particular project, right, because this is getting stored in local, so this will not be accessible for me in case if I'm logging in from a different system. So that's the challenge which we are going to have if we are using the local project or local workspace. When it comes to the cloud, whenever I log in to the UiPath Studio Web from any of the machines, so I don't have any problem because the entire project is getting stored as part of our um, cloud instance. So that's the difference, the major difference we can say, right? So this is much more about the cloud workspace and the local workspace. So here we will work more on the, obviously on the cloud workspace, not much on the local workspace. And can we open any of the project which we have created on the cloud workspace from the studio desktop? Yes, it is possible. So I will take some draft solution. So I can click on open in studio desktop. So open in studio desktop, open in studio. So now this solution, entire solution will be get open from the studio desktop. So I can even open anything which is built on the cloud from the studio desktop as well. And at the same time, we can have the local folder also to be created. This is something that like which we have in the cloud, right? So in case if you look at here, this is something that like agent which I have built. So I may not able to view it or work on it. But when it comes to the automation project, so RPA, I can view it. In case if I have an RPA inside of it, then I can work on it. So let me do one thing. I will close this instance, this which I have just opened on the studio desktop. So whenever I'm making the changes, I can save it to the cloud directly. So this is the test RPA solution cloud, which I have created. I can simply click on open studio desktop, open in studio desktop, and then I can open it. So whatever the project which we are creating, RPA project in the studio, I can edit even from the studio desktop as well. So what I have created in the studio web. So other than the RPA project, there are a lot of different projects which we have, which we are going to discuss. Those we cannot do anything. So if I expand, I have the main.yaml. Yes, I can open it and I can start working on it. So there is no difference. So now I can work on it and I can just simply save it to the cloud. So, and the things will be get uploaded there or reflected back on the cloud instance. So that's how this RPA projects works between the studio desktop and the studio web. And if you observe, let me reopen it. There is one sharp observation we need to make in order to understand the difference between the studio web and the studio desktop, right? So let it get open. Let us keep these two things side by side, okay? So this is the right side one, which I'm showing you is the project which I have created in the studio desktop. So let me go back to the project panel. So here, if you see here, I have an RPA project, which is sample project, studio desktop. And inside of that, I have the dependencies and I have some different project folders. And then I have main.yaml. So these is which I have created from the studio desktop. And on the left side, if you see, this is what I have created in the studio web. So I have the solution name. Under that, I have an RPA. automation project. And under that, I have dependencies and different projects. And then I have main.yaml. So that's the difference we have when it comes to the Studio Desktop and the Studio Web. So in terms of the Studio Web, whatever we are going to create, so whatever we have created, it will be reflected as a solution. And in terms of the Studio Desktop, whatever we have, that will be reflected as an automation project. So in Studio Desktop, till now, whatever we have dealt is with the project. And in the Studio Web, whatever we are dealing is with the solution. So solution is nothing but a group of projects. Like you can have one or more projects inside of a solution. So it can be same type of projects or multiple types of projects. So the types of projects which we are going to cover in next couple of minutes. So don't worry on that. And when it comes to the dependencies, yes, in case if we are downloading any dependencies and then we are saving it to the cloud, those dependencies will be reflected back on the Studio Web as well. So there is no difference in that. So as of now, I have three dependency libraries which are got installed. In case if I install any additional library from the managed packages, and when I save it to the cloud, so whatever the new dependency which I have downloaded, that will be reflected back onto the Studio Web as well. So that is the difference. And we will see even in terms of the deployment as well. So I'm just closing whatever I have opened from the Studio Web to the Studio Desktop, and I'll be keeping the project which I have created in the Studio Desktop again. Okay. So let me click on Publish here. Studio Desktop, click on Next, Tenant, click on Next, Publish. So I am publishing a sample project, Studio Desktop, directly from the Studio Web, Studio Desktop. Okay. And I'm closing this. I want to go to the Orchestrator. Under the tenant, under the packages, I can see this sample project, Studio Desktop, and this is of type RPA. And I will copy this, right? And I can go to any of the packages, right? I'll go to the share and I'll create one automation project. So we need to select the package when we are creating our process. Click on next, next, and then create. So there is a process created with the help of the package which we have published. So this is how we are doing as of now, right? This is how we are doing as of now our deployments. Like we will be having a nugget package under the packages, and then we will be creating a process. So that's how we are dealing as of now. And let me publish the RPA solution which we have to the cloud. And then not only that, let me add one more RPA process workflow, right? So I have two different projects here, right? And it will be part of my solution plan. So in terms of the dependencies, dependencies are going to be the solution specific, not the project specific here. So when it comes to the installation of the libraries or anything, dependencies or anything. So let me close this. And now I just need to click on the publish. In order to publish this, click on publish, and I'll be publishing it to the orchestrator. So the publish is in progress. So publishing is done. So when I go to the tenant packages, I will not find that under the packages. The reason is whatever we have published as of now, it is not the automation project. It is a solution. So if I go to the solutions, under the solutions, if I go to the packages, here I can see test RPA solution cloud. So which just we have deployed or published. And from this solution, we need to deploy the solution. So this is something called as a solution management, how we are bundling every resource, whatever is required as part of our solution, the processes or the agents or whatever we are building, and also the dependency resources, and also whatever the configurations we will be having. So everything we will be clicking on this in order to go for the deploy. Click on deploy. And we can see that, hey, this is the package and this is the version we have. And we can have the deployment name. And also we have the location in order to do the installation or deploy this particular solution. So you can have it as a root folder, or it can be inside of any of the folders. So a new solution folder is going to be created. Now we just need to click on deploy. So now it is configuring and then it is going for the deployment. And see, a slight interface might be different. So don't worry that, but in future, it is going to be like this also. And the deployment was successful. And I'll close this. And if I go to the packages here, so let me refresh this. Okay, so we have the project which folder which is got created, test RPA solution cloud, and I'll go under the automations. I can see the both the projects which we have created as part of the solution are getting reflected here. So which means when we deploy the solution, whatever the projects which we are going to create under that particular solution will be reflected back under this processes. So everything will be available for us to execute. So this is how the solutions with the Studio Web works. And now, before we proceed further, let us understand what are the different types of project types we have. See, irrespective whatever we are going to create. So when I click on this drop down or when I click on new, so we can see all the type of projects, whatever is available. Okay. So don't worry about this, whatever you are seeing as a preview. So these will not be available for us when you are going with the cloud instance. So these are something which is getting released maybe in the third quarter or fourth quarter. So we just need to make sure that don't get confused with these things, the flow or case management or the function, which we will not be having as of now. Okay. So either we can click on create new or the drop down. So we will be seeing the same options, but one additional option you will be seeing when you click on the drop down is import. So import is nothing but directly to import any of the solution which is already previously got exported. So when I click on the import, we just need to import either .uip or the .uis. So as of now, whatever the exports which we are doing is always go with the .uis. So I'll go here, go to the downloads, and I can find a couple of which I already exported previously. So I just need to click on the import. So now the import will happen. So this was the import which I have done just now, right? So in case if any previous export is available, that can be simply imported onto the Studio Web directly. So it's a solution. It's not the RPA process or the agent or anything. So that's how the import works. So let me delete this. In case if you want to export it, there is an option download solution. So which will download it, and whatever we have built on the cloud, we can change it to the local workspace as well. And when we have the local workspace, we can change it to the cloud workspace as well. So this is how we can interchange between the cloud workspace and the local workspace for any of the projects. So this is more on the in terms of the project handling and the deployment in the studio web. So it's a solution where we will be having multiple projects, right? Let me click on create new. So here we have the agentic process. So till now, whatever we are calling it as a maestro process. So you'll be hearing it a lot, right? So the maestro and master. So actually, when the agentic capabilities were introduced in UiPath, initially, in the month of December 2024, January 2025, February. So at that time, we used to have a dedicated agent builder as a product and the Mastro as a product. And in the Mastro, we used to do the BPMN mapping and configure agents and the robots and the humans into that particular BPMN. So that's how we used to build our end-to-end agentic process there. And agents also, we have a dedicated agents product where we call it as an agent builder. So where we used to build the agents. Now, what UiPath had done is in the mid of 2025, they brought the agent and the agentic process, which we generally do with the BPM and all, in terms of combining all the agents, robots, and the people. So those were brought into the studio web. Now the Mastro and the agents, whatever the additional products which we have in the UiPath, those are more for the monitoring purpose, not for the building purpose. So when we say the Mastro workflow, which is nothing but the agentic process, I think we should start naming it in a proper way, the agentic process. But I have seen that even in a lot of people in the market still call it as a master process. And then agentic process is nothing but a BPMN end to end, which actually we will be having it for the human robots and the agents. And then we have the agent, which is to build the agents. Like it can be a conversational agent, or it can be an autonomous agent, or it can be a coded agent. So which we will be seeing in tomorrow's session. And then we can create an RPA workflow, which is the traditional automations, which we are building since a long time. It's not new for us. And then we have something called as an API workflows, where you will be having, in case if you have only the backend integrations or something which you need to interact with the target applications through only API, then we can leverage the API workflows. Very simple reason is API workflows is much more faster than the RPA workflows. And then apps, we have the low code apps, which we can build even the UiPath apps, which were brought in, getting brought into the studio web itself. And then there are three more in preview: the flow, function, and the case management. So the flow, I haven't tried it yet. So I'll be starting with that flow, which is similar, pretty much similar to in terms of building the low code and end to end, like in terms of the automations itself. Like because the RPA workflow is something sequential. So instead of that, like we will be having a flow where we can call cross reference any of the other project types as well in the flow. And then we have the case management, which is an extended version of agentic process. So in the agentic process, we will be building in the BPMN. And in case if you want to have these orchestrated in a right way with the SLAs configured, or something which is related to the incident management, or something which we will be having as a case management with different states or the different actions to be performed in an order, then we will be having the case management. And then function. A function is something very powerful, but not for us. When I say us, in the sense like in case if we are a pure RPA developers, we will not like the function, because the function is something that the UiPath is bringing in. Like you can write in the JavaScript and orchestrate in the UiPath. or you can write in the Python and you can orchestrate in the UiPath. So that's how they are bringing in the functions. So similar to how we are building our UiPath automations, now you can build your automations in the Python and you can publish as a function so that like that can be orchestrated from the UiPath orchestrator. So these are the different project types we have. And it is not necessary to have the same project type under the solution. You can have different type of the project types in terms of our solution. So this is a more on the project types. So I'll take a pause and I will let you guys unmute yourself for a while. And if anyone have any questions, please do unmute yourself and you can ask me.
So, to run the agents, we need to have a cloud version only, right? We cannot run it on local
As
only.
of now, there is no such an flexibility is available to run your agents on-prem. It always runs on the agent service serverless.
Yeah.
Yes, Satya, you thought of asking something. You're unmuting. Yeah, please go ahead, Swapna.
I mean, you mentioned that the solution which contains multiple projects, so the project. I mean, how can we correlate? It is like the model which we created as a dispatcher and performer, the same. I mean, both can. I mean, how can I ask? Like both can we schedule at the same time? Both can we publish at the same time? Is it like that?
See, whatever the project types you are having. So if you see whatever I have done as of now, so let me bring up my screen again. So we will be publishing it as a solution. And once it is published, you will be having all the individual projects are published as are prepared under this particular processes. So you can see all the projects types, irrespective whether it is an RPA or the agent or the app, everything will be available here. So which means each project will be deployed as it is like how we are publishing to the orchestrator from the studio desktop and when we are manually creating as an process, right? So in the similar way, when we deploy the solution, all the project types what we have inside of the solution will be published here. In case if I add one more project under this particular solution, and if I publish it again, you'll have one more here. So that's how it works.
Okay, so we can edit individually, and while publishing, we have to publish all together.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Anyone have any additional questions? Okay. If not, then I'll be continuing the session. So now we understood that like how the deployment works and all. And when version control is something that like, hey, whatever we are doing or whatever the changes we are making to our automation needs to be versioned properly, and we should have the rollback capability. Of so in terms of managing or like sharing the project across multiple teams to work together is not 100% possible as of now in the studio web, but still we can have some version management and the rollback options available in the studio web, and we are looking forward in terms of mm, having the git integration properly and then to collaborate across the teams. So let us go through different panels whatever is available. So this is something that like which we have for the RPA project. See, the panels, there are few panels or some few properties which might be changing, but the number, like whatever the panels we have, is consistent across all the project types. So if I, irrespective whether I have created an RPA process or I created an agent, so the panels will be same. So only few things will be changing. Like kind of when it comes to the RPA, we will be having some panels. There are some static and there are some dynamic as well. So let us see. Let us understand it. So this is the project folder where we will be having the entire structure of our solution, and inside of that we will be having the project, and inside of that like we will be having multiple files, right? So this is pretty much common across all the project types. And then we have the data manager where we will be handling the variables and the input and output arguments. So this is also pretty much same how actually it is for all the type of projects. So one thing is that like in when it comes to the studio desktop, we are having an experience of having the input and the output arguments. Along with that, we used to have in and out arguments. So when I create an in argument, I'll be having one argument here. When I create an out argument, I'll be having one argument here. Let us assume that I'm creating one more argument with the in and out. So what will happen is this argument will be reflected in both the input and out. So that's the only difference I could able to see when it comes to the data manager. Whereas like in Studio Desktop, we have the properties in, out, under the same, right? So now it is just a replication. But in case if I update something here, so if I say that instead of 2, if I say 22, even it will be get reflected here also because it's an in out and both will be identical or the replication. Only difference is in terms of the visualization. So don't get confused on this part, but this is how it works. And then we have issues panel, which is like to show us any validation errors are present or not. So this is also common or consistent across all the scenarios what we have. And then version control. So this is more on the solution version control, like where we can just go for any of the previous snapshots, whatever we have, and then we can roll back our project version. But it will be automatically doing in periodical way. And also, whenever we are publishing it as a solution, we will be having the snapshot again with the version. And let us assume that you just started working on it and you are building some new feature, right, across your solution. And you are not 100% sure like whether it is going to work or not. You're something you're experimenting, or you want to have some point to be checked as an option to roll back, right? So we need to click on this, create snapshot, so that a new version will be created. And we can roll back to this specific version with the proper name, whatever we are giving, so that like we can create our own custom snapshots so that the rollback is going to be easy. And the deployment configuration, this is pretty much similar or like it is very same as like how we will be having it when we are deploying the solution. Either we can do the configuration here itself, or else we can make the configurations when we are deploying as well. It's more on the related to the deployment. So it all depends on the what is the dependencies what we have and all the resources what we are using as part of our solution. So let me close. And the properties which is going to be common. So all the left panels are static and common for any of the automations. And when it comes to the properties, which is common across all the project types, and then output panel is common across all the project types. And when it comes to the watch panels, we will be having this for the RPA, but not for the agentic. So for agentic, we will be having health score. So that's the slight difference what we will be having. And let us assume that there is one person who is working on these automations, right? And if that person goes on leave for a week or two, so is my project is going to be stuck with that person because this is login based and I cannot use his login. So that's the biggest challenge what we will be having, right? So there is an option share here. We can click on it and we can share this solution with anyone so that they also can work on this project. But the only limitation what you have is both the users cannot work on the same project at same time. So the parallel implementations are not possible. But when I'm not using, he can work on the edit. When I'm working on it for the implementation or editing the project, the other person still can read it, but he cannot edit it. So that's how we will be having in terms of sharing of this process to someone else. And one important place which we need to discuss is defined resources. So whatever the resources which we are using as part of our solution will be reflected back here. So whatever the processes which we have created and whatever the context bounding indexes, the studio integration services connections, assets, apps, storage buckets, queues, task catalogs, whatever we are using as part of the dependencies. So that will be reflected back under the defined resources. So whatever the resources we will be using, so it will be part of it. And also, if you see dependencies, so whatever the activities we will be having or we will be using here, those will be auto installed into the dependencies, similar to how we are doing it from the managed packages. So whenever we are using any activities, so those dependencies will be reflected. So for example, if I go here, so I'll use GenAI activities for some reason, right? UiPath. So I'll just simply use this activity. If you see here, it will install these particular activities. Okay. So we have GenAI activities. It might be part of the system activities. So for that reason, we are not getting it. So let me do one thing. I will install Salesforce just to show up that like how it works. So I'll use insert record. Now we have the Salesforce activities getting used. Let me refresh this. Oh, this is pretty much strange. Previously, we used to have it. Okay, let me see. Now this is getting installed. So these are something integration service activities, like where we have the UiPath.integration service.activities. So for that reason, these are not getting reflected. But other than anything which we are going to use other than the integration services, so it is going to be get installed as a dependency. So this is how it works. In case if I'm using document understanding, then those activities or libraries will be part of dependencies. And whenever we have seen something, and as of now, what we have done is we have just tried to use the GenAI activities and the Salesforce activities because those are the integration services and it is not reflected under the dependencies. But by default, there are some connections which got selected and those were got reflected here. And this can be happened like when we are dragging and dropping or using any of these activities by default, whatever the default activity we will be having, those might be get reflected here. So how do we remove it? Like we just need to right click and remove from the solution. In case if we are not using any of the resources, it is always advisable to remove it, or else what will happen is when we publish this, these will be part of your project dependencies under the processes which are getting created. So that's the only challenge which you are going to face. And we will see that like how these are getting reflected and how we will be configuring them as well when it comes to the integration services or any of the dependencies what we have. So we are going to look in detail when it comes to the dependencies and how we will be configuring when we are going for the deployments. So these are the different, it's more on the interface tool when we have this. So we can have the even the access management also managed for the studio web. So who needs to be coming, who will be getting access to the studio web and who is not. So this is more on the introduction to the studio web and how does the solution looks like and how do we deploy the solution. So before we wrap up, so I would like to check with you all, any questions on this?
Hi, Patrudu.
Hi.
I have a question
Yeah.
related to the CI/CD thing. So we know for the regular RPA projects, we have the CI/CD thing from one tenant to other tenant we can provision,
Mhm.
right? So what about the solutions? So do we have
So
any visibility
yeah,
for that?
yeah. So in terms of if you go to the UiPath cloud automation
Mhm.
ops, there is something called as a pipelines where we can configure, and
Yes.
we have one dedicated pipeline automation which we have for the solutions deployment. So you can configure that for the CI/CD, similar to how these are moving from one tenant to the other. That will help us in terms of moving the entire solution as
Okay. So here, one more follow-up question.
well.
So for example, if we have any desktop RPA project instead of
Mm-hmm.
the cloud one,
Mm-hmm.
and if we use the agentic process, if you
Mm-hmm.
have multiple agents and desktop RPA projects, so if you have that, so how in this scenario, how can we manage the version control and the CI/CD thing? Because we are working on these things in the desktop UiPath, the RPA projects, and
Mm-hmm.
agents will be like in the UiPath Studio. So how can we manage, these two
It's
things?
a nice question. So here we are not going to use any package. When we deploy something from the studio desktop, we need to create it as a process. And that particular process will be called as part of your solution, where in case if that is getting used by your agent or the agentic process, right,
Mhm.
which you are building. So it will always call the process. Which version it needs to call and everything will be managed from your process itself, which is deployed from your studio desktop and got created. Whatever the version of the package which you want to configure it for the process, you need to configure it from there itself because it calls the process, not the package.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. Yeah. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions?
Hi, Pathudu. I have a
Yeah.
small question. So,
Yeah.
we have this options available in Studio Web, right? Agentic
Yes.
automation. So, likewise, so if we have one process that you just said that we need to create a process if we have a solution created in desktop. So we
Mm-hmm.
saw a toggle option where we can switch a desktop automation to cloud and cloud to desktop, right?
Yes.
So when we have a desktop solution and we need to utilize the same process in a agentic process, so do we
Mm-hmm.
need to switch that into cloud?
Sorry.
Is that a mandate? So do we need to switch that solution as a process to cloud, or a desktop automation would work?
See, you can even use the desktop automations also as part of your agents, but for that, you need to publish your desktop automation and create it as a process in any of the
Process.
folders so that that process can be used as part of your agentic. So you cannot mark something which you built on the Studio desktop directly to be as a wrapped up as a solution in the Studio web. But in case if you are already created a solution, and inside of that, in case if you have if you are going to create an RPA process, that you can open as part of your Studio desktop, and you can do all of your work, whatever you want to do, and then you can save it to the cloud so that your solution will be updated with the latest changes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Cool, guys. And tomorrow we will be looking over the agent builder and the properties of what anatomy of the agents, and also the prerequisite to start with the agents, like which is nothing but AI trust layer. and what permissions or what we need to enable in order to start using the agents. And not only the agents, any Gen AI capabilities, and how do we monitor what's going on with the agent as well. So we are going to deep dive onto the agent capabilities and different properties as well in tomorrow's session. And I'll see you all in tomorrow at 8 a.m. And Kiran, do you have anything to talk?